The night I watched him walk out of Denver County Courthouse looking like he'd aged 10 years. I was standing across the street with a USB drive in my pocket that had every disgusting lie he ever told me, neatly organized into PDFs. He didn't see me. He was too busy yelling at his soon-to-be ex-wife and her attorney on the courthouse steps, the same woman he'd called his roommate to me, the same woman who just finished reading all the baby and you're my soulmate texts he'd been sending me from her kitchen. He catfished me for months. But he picked the wrong quiet graphic designer in Denver, Colorado. And definitely the wrong wife to lie to. Stick this right after the hook, before you drop into the I'm Lauren background. Before I tell you how a dating app match turned into a divorce case at Denver County Courthouse, do me a favor, if you've ever had that gut feeling that someone online wasn't who they said they were, hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories, and it honestly makes it easier for people like me to talk about them. And if you're into long, detailed, real-life revenge stories where the receipts don't just live in your phone but end up in a judge's hands, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. The night I watched him walk out of Denver County Courthouse, looking like he'd aged 10 years, I was standing across the street with a USB drive in my pocket that had every disgusting lie he ever told me neatly organized into PDFs. He didn't see me. He was too busy arguing with his soon-to-be ex-wife and her attorney on the courthouse steps, his face red, his hands flying in that way I'd only seen over FaceTime when he thought I was his girl. The best part? His wife had already read all of it. Every baby, every you're my soulmate, every time he told me he was trapped in a loveless marriage, while sending me photos from the house I now knew she paid most of the mortgage on. And she only had the chat logs because I gave them to her attorney. So yeah, he catfished me for months. But he picked the wrong quiet graphic designer in Denver, CO. The wrong woman who documents everything for a living, and definitely the wrong wife to lie to. Before I tell you how a bunch of flirty messages went from my iPhone to a courtroom evidence packet with a judge's name on it, do me one quick favor. If you've ever had that gut feeling that someone online wasn't who they said they were, hit that like button. It helps more people find stories like this, and honestly, it makes it a little easier for people like me to talk about them. And if you're into long, detailed, real-life revenge stories, neighbors, spouses, bosses, all of it, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next mess someone thought they'd get away with. Alright, let's go back to the beginning, before the USB drive and the courthouse and the lawyer, to when this was just me, my couch, and one dating app I should have deleted after a week. The perfect guy who didn't exist. If my life were a movie, the opening shot before all this would just be painfully normal. I'm Lauren Parker, 31, and at the time this started, I was living a solidly average millennial life in Denver, Colorado. I rented a small but cute one-bedroom a few blocks off Washington Park. If you know the area, you know the type older brick building, creaky hardwood floors, radiator that clanked whenever it felt like it, and neighbors who always seemed to be grilling something amazing on weekends, but somehow never invited me over. My commute was exactly this. Roll out of bed, stumble to the kitchen, make coffee strong enough to qualify as a controlled substance, shuffle 5 steps to the little IKEA desk in the corner, open my laptop and stare at Slack notifications. I worked as a remote graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing agency based out of Chicago, which meant all my coworkers were floating squares in Zoom boxes. My boss lived in another time zone, and my idea of office small talk was reacting with a laughing emoji when someone posted a meme in our #random channel. On days I was being an actual functioning adult, I'd walk the loop around Wash Park before logging on. If you've never been, imagine. Dogs everywhere, all of them better dressed than you. Moms with jogging strollers that look more expensive than my car. That one guy doing Tai Chi near the lake at 7 a.m. every single morning. The mountains doing that stupid glowing pink at sunrise, thing that makes you forgive your rent for being $1,600 for 600 square feet. I'd walk with my coffee, AirPods in, listening to a podcast about murders or capitalism or both, and then go home and sit in front of a screen for 9 hours. My social life could be summarized as trivia night at a bar near Cherry Creek Mall with my coworker turned friend Erin, occasional brunches with my sister and her kids in the suburbs out near Centennial, wandering around Target, convincing myself I needed new throw pillows. And like a lot of people my age, most of my dating life happened on my phone. I'd had one serious relationship in my mid-20s. We'd done the whole move in together in Cap Hill, adopt a plant, talk about maybe adopting a dog thing. Then, right before COVID, he decided he wasn't ready for something this serious and moved out, leaving me with the plant and the couch and a suddenly way too quiet apartment. Then the world shut down. And somewhere between Tiger King, baking sourdough, and learning way too much about my own face on Zoom, I just got used to being alone. I told myself I was focusing on my career and working on myself, but mostly I was just tired. Cut to early 2023. It's been years since my last relationship. The only things sharing my bed are my laptop and a pile of clean laundry I've refused to fold for 3 days. My therapist, Jessica, looks at me on our telehealth call one Thursday and says, very gently, "Lauren, you're allowed to want connection. You don't have to martyr yourself to singlehood." "I'm fine," I said, lying. "I've got Erin. I've got my sister. I've got Netflix." She raised an eyebrow. "And how many nights a week do you fall asleep doom scrolling?" I didn't answer because the answer was most. "Maybe," she said, "you try putting yourself out there again, low stakes, no expectations, just see what's out there." So that night, sprawled on my couch with the Office reruns in the background, I downloaded a dating app, not one of the sketchy ones. Just a very normal mainstream app everyone uses and complains about. I told myself I'd delete it after a week if it was terrible. Spoiler, it was terrible. The first few days were exactly what you'd expect. Gym guys with bathroom mirror selfies and captions like, "Looking for my gym queen." Men holding fish. Why is it always fish? Someone whose entire bio was just no drama must be fit and feminine, which... Okay, Andrew Tate. I got a few matches, had a few conversations that died after 5 messages. I was 3 days in and already exhausted. Then I matched with Ryan. Ryan's profile annoyed me immediately because it was good. Age, 36. Location, Aurora. COO about a 25-minute drive from me without I-25 being a parking lot. Job, software engineer at healthcare tech company. Bio, short, simple. Hiking, board games, attempting BBQ, will never say no to tacos. Photos, a one of him at the top of a trail somewhere in the Front Range, flushed and grinning a one at a brewery patio with a golden retriever's giant head in his lap. Oh, one of him holding up a board game box mock serious, like he was about to conquer the world with Catton. No shirtless gym shots. No sunglasses only photos. No weird group pics where you had to play detective to figure out which one he was. He looked normal, cute, even. Slightly scruffy, kind eyes, the kind of guy who probably owned more than one flannel. His first message pinged my phone while I was half asleep, face half mashed into my pillow. Ryan. Inconceivable. I blinked at it and then remembered my own bio where I'd written, "I can quote 90% of The Princess Bride. Please don't test me." Me. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. There was a pause then. Ryan. Okay, you just passed the vibe check. We talked. And unlike most app conversations that feel like pulling teeth with a stranger who only replies lol and wid, this felt easy. He asked about my work, not just, "What do you do?" But actually, "Ryan, do you like graphic design or did you fall into it by accident?" "Ryan, what's your least favorite kind of client request?" He wanted to know my favorite coffee shops in Denver, asking, "Are you more a Washpurk person or a Stella's on Pearl Street person?" Which, as any local knows, is basically asking about your coffee identity. He asked if I was a ski every weekend Colorado person or a watch the snow from inside with hot chocolate Colorado person. I hike like twice a year, I typed. I fall down in snow. My winter hobbies are blankets. Respect, he replied. The world has enough ski brothers. He told me he'd moved from Texas a few years earlier after a bad breakup. He said something vague about drama back in Dallas but didn't overshare. He said he worked remote too, mostly from his home office, but liked going to Starbucks or a WeWork downtown sometimes just to see other humans. We texted for a week straight before he asked if I wanted to move to FaceTime. I hesitated. Video is vulnerable. You can't edit your face. You can't reread your reply 10 times before sending. But I also didn't want to be one of those people who never leaves the app. Sure, I typed. As long as you're prepared for my resting I hate everyone face. He sent a laughing emoji and a time, 9 tonight? At 8:58 p.m. that night, I was sitting at my little thrift store kitchen table, laptop tilted to find the one decent angle in my apartment, heart racing like I was about to give a presentation in front of 100 people. My hair was in the kind of messy bun that says, I tried, but only a little. I had put on mascara and then immediately poked myself in the eye, so one eye was slightly red. Classic. The FaceTime ringtone started. I took a breath and answered. The guy on my screen looked like his photos. Slightly more tired maybe, but who wasn't these days? Backwards baseball cap. Flannel over a t-shirt. A faint raccoon tan line where his sunglasses had clearly been at some point on a trail. Behind him, I saw neutral gray wall, a bookshelf with programming books, and a Lego Millennium Falcon, a framed print that said, eat, sleep, code, repeat, in the kind of font that made my designer soul cringe just a little. Hey, he said, with this small, crooked smile. Wow, you're real. You're the one who could still be a 60-year-old catfishing me, I said. Show me Moose. He laughed and whistled. A second later, a golden retriever head popped up into frame, tongue out, tail thumping against something off-screen. This is Moose, he said, scratching behind the dog's ears. He sheds on everything I own and judges my life choices. Good boy, I cooed, as Moose huffed into the camera. We talked for an hour. About nothing. Really, how he thought Denver drivers were somehow worse than Dallas drivers, how I'd accidentally designed a logo once that looked like something it shouldn't, and my boss hadn't noticed until a client pointed it out. How he liked hiking but hated the people who treated it like an Instagram photo shoot. How I still wasn't sure if I wanted kids and how that freaked guys out on apps when I was honest. He laughed easily. He listened. He wasn't weird when I mentioned therapy or my sister's kids, or the fact that I still sometimes cried when I drove past the exit for the apartment I shared with my ex. When we hung up, I sat there staring at my own reflection in the dark laptop screen, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time, that stupid, fluttery teenage crush feeling. When I told Erin about him the next day at trivia night sitting at a sticky high top near Cherry Creek Mall, losing another round because we never remember sports questions, she raised an eyebrow. Lauren, please tell me he's not a crypto bro or something, she said, sipping her beer. He works for some healthcare software company, I said. He has a golden retriever named Moose. He wears flannel. That's all I know. Golden retriever is a good sign, she said. Crypto guys have hairless cats. We clinked glasses. It felt like hope. The next few weeks were weirdly wonderful. Ryan and I texted every single day, FaceTime 3 or 4 nights a week, sent each other photos of our dinners, mine, sad salads and frozen pizza. His, ambitious BBQ that looked like it tasted better than it photographed. Shared playlists, him sending me moody indie rock, me sending him 2000s pop punk I refused to apologize for, stayed up talking until past midnight like we weren't two adults who had jobs. He wasn't love bombing me. No, you're my soulmate, on day 3. No talking about moving in together in a month. Just consistent attention. He remembered things. If I mentioned a client call I was nervous about, he'd text me after, "How'd it go, designer girl?" If I said I had a dentist appointment I was dreading, he'd ask, "Survive the tooth torture?" That afternoon, when my niece had a meltdown on FaceTime one Sunday because her brother had eaten her goldfish crackers, he actually laughed and said, "She sounds like my little cousin." Kids are chaos gremlins. We started doing this thing on Friday nights where we'd both DoorDash from the same chain restaurant and eat together over FaceTime. We called it our fake date nights. One night it was Chipotle, both of us comparing how much guac they'd given us. Another night it was Cheesecake Factory, and we spent 20 minutes arguing about which slice was superior while he tried to convince me Oreo was trash, and I tried to convince him he was wrong. There was flirting, obviously. Light innuendos, a couple of "if I were there right now" comments that made my face heat up, but it never crossed the line into full sexting. I kind of liked that. It made things feel more real somehow, less transactional. Every couple of days, I suggest we meet in person. "Coffee at Eviano?" I'd text. "I promise I'm only slightly awkward in real life. Let me take you to Snooze for pancakes," I'd say. "I want to see if you're real from the shoulders down." He always sounded enthusiastic. In theory, "Oh my God, yes, I owe you tacos," he'd reply. "This week is just insane." "Next weekend?" "It's been crazy at work, babe," he'd say on video, rubbing his eyes. "We're pushing a release." "I'm not a flake, I swear, rain check." His excuses were reasonable. Work deadlines. Moose had an upset stomach and he didn't want to leave him. His roommate needed help moving furniture. He was going to see family in Dallas for a long weekend and would be back soon. That voice in the back of my head, the one that sounded suspiciously like my therapist, whispered, if he wanted to, he would. The louder voice, the one that was lonely and liked his laugh and forgot what it felt like to have someone check in every day, said, "Give him time. People get busy." Not everything is a red flag, Lauren. So I ignored it. I deleted the app without even telling him because I felt weird scrolling through other guys when I was texting Ryan good morning and good night every single day. He was the first person I thought about when I woke up and the last person I talked to before I fell asleep. For a while, that felt like falling in love. Until a random Tuesday in April, when the first crack formed. It was the 11th of April 2023, yes. I remember the exact date because my brain likes to pin breakups and traumas to calendar squares like they're little crime scene markers. It had been a brutal workday. One of our bigger clients, a tech company out in Boulder, had decided they wanted their entire branding refreshed with a 2-week deadline. My boss had pinged me 5 times before lunch with quick tweaks that were not quick. By 8 p.m., I was done. I was lying on my couch in sweatpants, half watching parks and recreation reruns, laptop mercifully closed, when Ryan texted, "Ryan, can I call you later?" Today sucked. Me. Always. FaceTime or just voice. "Ryan, FaceTime. Need to see your face." The little flutter in my chest again. I hate that it still makes me mad. How happy that stupid sentence made me in the moment. A few minutes later, his face filled my screen. He looked rougher than usual. Hair messier, dark circles under his eyes, flannel replaced with a plain gray t-shirt. "Hey," I said, "you look like death." "What happened?" "Work drama," he groaned, running a hand over his face. "My boss is being a nightmare. They moved up a deadline for this hospital system in Colorado Springs, and somehow everything is my fault." I winced. I feel that. My client decided their entire brand identity should be more fun, but can't explain what fun means. He gave a weak laugh. "Can we just not talk about work for a bit?" he said. "I just want to, look at you and pretend I don't have 200 emails." I rolled my eyes, but my cheeks warmed. "Sure, we can talk about literally anything else. Moose content. Board games. Rank the best tacos in Denver." We talked. As we chatted, I let my gaze wander around his background. I seen his office a bunch of times. neutral gray wall, the bookshelf with programming books, and the Lego Millennium Falcon, the cringe eat, sleep, code, repeat, print. Tonight, though, something was different. At the very edge of the frame just over his shoulder, I could see part of something else on the wall. A big frame, with smaller rectangles inside it. One of those family photo collages everyone's mom has. I squinted, leaning closer to my phone. I couldn't make out faces, just shapes, people, maybe a dog, a beach, hard to tell. New decor? I asked casually, tilting my head the way people do when they're trying not to sound nosy. He glanced back over his shoulder. Oh, yeah, he said quickly. Then he reached forward and adjusted his laptop angle so that the collage slid out of frame. Better? He said, a little too brightly. You were getting like the worst view of my kitchen. Kitchen? I repeated. I thought that was your office. Yeah, I'm actually working from the kitchen table tonight, he said, eyes flicking away from the camera for a second. Better Wi-Fi in here. It was a tiny moment. Barely a blip. But something in the way he did it, a little too fast, a little too deliberate, made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I shoved it down. We switched topics to the most recent Marvel movie. He complained about how everything had become CGI. I teased him for being old. But once you start noticing, you don't stop. Over the next couple weeks, little things started piling up. He took more calls from his car. Signal's better out here, he'd say, camera propped on the dashboard, the glow of streetlights washing his face in yellow. He declined FaceTime during certain times with a, "Can we just text?" It's loud here, where here was never specified. Sometimes, when we were on the phone late at night, I'd hear a faint voice in the background. A woman's voice, laughing, or the clank of pots and pans. Roommate home? I asked once, trying to keep my tone light. There was the tiniest of pauses. Yeah, he said. He's playing Xbox with some friends. It's chaos. I stared at my ceiling, phone pressed to my ear, thinking that laugh did not sound like an Xbox bro. But I said nothing. The worst part is, I could feel myself doing it. Gaslighting myself. You're being paranoid. You're just used to people leaving. You're going to scare away a good guy because you can't handle normal life noises in the background. So I let it go. Until the universe delivered me a red flag I couldn't ignore in the stupidest way possible, through a Facebook tag. I wasn't Facebook friends with Ryan. We'd never gone there. Our world was confined to the dating app chat, which I'd since deleted, text messages, FaceTime the occasional, WhatsApp when reception was bad. But once, back in March, he'd sent me a screenshot of a meme he thought I'd like. You know the kind, some white text on a black background about introverts and plans. At the top of that screenshot, I'd seen his full name in the messenger header, Ryan Thomas Keller. I'd registered it, thought, okay, not a serial killer name, and moved on. Now a month later, sitting at my kitchen table on a Saturday morning I should have been doing laundry, I stared at the Facebook search bar and thought, if I search, and nothing weird comes up, I can relax. If something does come up. Better I know now. My heart thudded in my chest. My palms actually got sweaty, which I thought was just a figure of speech until that moment. I typed, Ryan Keller, Aurora, Colorado. Hit enter. His profile popped up near the top. Newish profile picture of him and Moose. Same backward hat, same smile. Cover photo, some generic mountain landscape. I clicked it. His profile was locked down pretty hard. I could see, lives in Aurora, Colorado, works at healthcare software company name from Dallas, Texas, a few public photos, mostly of Moose, a couple hiking shots. No relationship status. I told myself, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. People hide that all the time. It's fine. You're fine. I hovered over the Add Friend button for a second, then thought better of it. That felt like jumping a step. Instead, I clicked on photos of Ryan, tagged photos. Most of them were old group shots from college, some beer-soaked images from what looked like a house party, a couple of coworkers' pics from office events. I was halfway through scrolling when I saw it. A photo of Ryan in a suit, kissing a woman in a white dress. She had dark hair swept up, a veil, and the unmistakable look of someone eating cake and happiness in equal measure. Moose, smaller, puppy-sized, was at their feet with a bow tie. The caption read, "Can't believe it's been 8 years. Happy anniversary to my favorite human, #DallasWedding." Posted by Megan Keller. Date, June 14, 22. My vision tunneled. I clicked her name. Megan's profile was less locked down. I could see married to Ryan Keller, lives in Aurora, Colorado, works as nurse at a clinic in Denver, COA, public album called Us. I clicked the album. Photo after photo of them together. Halloween 2021. Dressed as Bob Ross in a painting Cherry Creek Mall at Christmas, holding Starbucks red cups, big tree behind them. A Rockies game selfie at Coors Field, her in a baseball cap, him in a jersey. Thanksgiving at what looked like someone's parents' house. Long table, her sitting on his lap, Moose full grown at their feet. My brain kept insisting it could be old. Maybe they'd broken up. Maybe they were separated and hadn't updated Facebook. Maybe then I saw it. Posted the 10th of February 2023, just a week or so before Ryan and I matched on the app. A photo of them standing in front of a beige 2-story house, bundled in winter coats, arms around each other. A little sold sign on the lawn. Caption, "Can't believe we've been in our house 5 years already. Homeowners in Aurora, CO since 2018. And I still feel so lucky to do life with you." Behind them, I recognized the neutral gray wall visible through the window, the bookshelf with the programming books, the Lego Millennium Falcon, and in another photo, taken inside, that same family photo collage I'd seen behind him on FaceTime. I kept scrolling, heart pounding, mouth dry. Valentine's Day 2023. A photo of flowers on a desk with a stethoscope nearby. Caption, "He surprised me at work and then made dinner tonight. I'm so grateful for this man." #Valentine's Day. Comments full of heart emojis, and you two are goals. I opened mine and Ryan's text thread for that day. Ryan, "Today sucked. Glad we did our own little Valentine's yesterday. You deserve better than some cheesy holiday anyway." Me, agreed. "Cheesecake Factory taste test greater than crowded restaurants." Ryan, "You're my kind of girl." Our Valentine's had been the night before. He'd DoorDashed me Cheesecake Factory, we'd eaten on FaceTime, watched a movie, and he'd said something about tomorrow being a work-heavy day, so he wanted to celebrate early. On the actual day, Valentine's Day, he'd apparently shown up at his wife's job with flowers and then cooked her dinner. In the same kitchen where he talked to me about how relationships were complicated, my stomach dropped through the floor. The first emotion that hit me wasn't anger, it was humiliation. Like my entire body had turned into one giant throbbing cringe. Every time he said, "I'm just not ready for anything serious after what I went through," and I nodded, trying to be understanding. Every time he said roommate instead of wife. Every time I'd believed him when he bailed on seeing me in person. I scrolled through Megan's photos like some kind of deranged archivist, each image another punch. Him and Megan at Red Rocks, arms around each other. Him and Megan at Wash Park with Moose, on the exact same loop I walked. Him and Megan in front of a Christmas tree, her in plaid pajamas, him in a Santa hat. He hadn't just been in a relationship. He'd been married for almost a decade. He'd built a life, a home, a story with this woman. And then gone shopping for an online girlfriend, like he was browsing Netflix. And I'd bought it. I sat there on my wobbly kitchen chair, my laptop casting a bluish glow over the crumbs on the table, Facebook tab open, feeling like someone had poured a bucket of ice water into my chest. My mind did this horrible split-screen thing. On one side, a montage of our messages, his dumb jokes, Moose's face, the way I'd felt seen. On the other, a montage of their life, weddings, anniversaries, discounted Black Friday appliances, hospital scrubs, selfies, inside jokes I'd never know. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for my coffee to go cold. Long enough for my leg to go numb. Long enough to cycle through denial, disbelief, and a fun little dose of maybe they're open, and he just forgot to mention it. That last one died fast. Because right there in the About section of their wedding album, someone had commented, "You two are perfect together forever," and Megan had replied, "Thank you. He's my one and only." Yeah, no ethically non-monogamous situation here. Just a guy who lied. The humiliation burned hot behind my eyes in my throat. But underneath it, like embers under ash, another feeling started to spread. Slow, cold, anger. Not the movie kind where you throw plates and scream. The kind where your breathing goes very calm and you start mentally lining up facts in little rows like soldiers. I closed Facebook. I opened our text thread. I scrolled, fingers trembling, past all the memes and good morning beautiful messages, and babe, you're the only one who really gets me nonsense. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to send one long glorious wall of text. You're disgusting. I know you're married. Your wife is beautiful, and you're a liar, and instead, I heard my cousin Rachel's voice in my head. The last time I complained about some guy, she'd said, "Screenshots before speeches, babe," so I took a breath. And I typed, "Me, hey, random question, are you single?" I watched the 3 dots appear almost immediately. Ryan. Hello, yes, babe, why? My hands stopped shaking. Because that was the moment I knew exactly what I was going to do. And for the first time since I clicked on his Facebook, I didn't just feel humiliated. I felt powerful. I stared at that "Hello, yes, babe" bubble like it was something radioactive. It was such a stupid little message. 2 L's, 3 letters in yes, 1 casual babe. He'd probably copy-pasted emotionally into a dozen conversations. But for me, it was everything. It was the moment I stopped being the girl who got played and started being the girl who has proof. I took a screenshot. Then another, scrolled up, captured our whole exchange, him telling me he hadn't dated anyone seriously in years, him describing his house as my place, him referring to his wife as his roommate. I grabbed them in chunks, thumb moving like a scanner. My humiliation was still there, heavy and hot, sitting in my chest. But it had a new neighbor now. Strategy. From hurt to strategy. The cliché revenge fantasy is instant. You find out they lied, you storm over to their house, you scream on their front lawn, you throw a drink in their face. Real life is slower, Monsieur. It looks like pacing your living room at 11 a.m. with your phone in your hand, trying not to cry, trying not to text him, trying not to message his wife right then and there with something like, "Hi, you don't know me, but your husband's been calling me baby for 2 months. My brain ran in circles. One part of me wanted to burn it all down. Message Megan. Tag her on his photos. Comment. He's cheating under every post with his face in it. Blow up his little online world in one nuclear blast. Another part, the one that had watched too many drama shows, knew how that usually goes. He'd deny, gaslight, twist the story. She's obsessed with me. She knew I was married. She's some crazy girl from an app who won't leave me alone. And Megan, blindsided, hurt, would have to decide which stranger to believe while he spun narratives faster than I could chase them. I didn't want to give him that much power over the story. I needed someone who understood how to use evidence, not emotion. Which is how 20 minutes later, I found myself staring at my contacts list and tapping my cousin Rachel's name. Rachel is one of those people who always sounds like she's in the middle of 3 things at once. She works as a family law paralegal up in Fort Collins, has 2 kids, a house full of laundry, and an infinite supply of "oh honey" in her voice. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey you," she said. "What's up? Everything okay?" I swallowed. My throat felt tight. "I think I just found out the guy I've been talking to for 2 months is married," I blurted. There was a pause. "Oh," she said, her tone shifting immediately. "Okay, I'm grabbing my water bottle and sitting down." Start from the beginning. So I did. I told her about the app, the FaceTime smooths, the excuses about meeting the roommate, the family collage on the wall, the Facebook search. I told her about the app, the FaceTime smooths, the excuses about meeting the roommate, the family collage, the Facebook search, a surge to vote. The wedding photos, the happy anniversary captions. By the time I finished, I was pacing between my kitchen and my living room, heart pounding, mouth dry. Rachel exhaled on the other end. First of all, she said, I'm so sorry. That is a mind asterisk, and I want to drive down there and throw his Xbox into Cherry Creek. I let out a watery laugh. Assuming he has an Xbox and not just a second phone for all his girlfriends. Second, she continued, you did nothing wrong, you are not the villain here. He lied, repeatedly. That's on him. My brain hurt her. My shame did not. I feel like an idiot, I said. Like, how did I not see this? Because you wanted to believe him, she said. Because you're human. And because guys like this are very practiced at compartmentalizing. This is not a moral failing on your part. There was a beat of silence. Then she asked, very calmly, do you have everything saved? I blinked. What? The messages, she said, the FaceTime logs, any screenshots. Do you have them backed up somewhere that isn't just your phone? I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. They're in my text thread, I said. And I screen recorded a couple of our calls when he said something that made me uncomfortable because some part of me already didn't trust him, I guess. That's actually great, she said. Unintentional, but great. Here's what I want you to do. If you have the bandwidth and you're sure you want to get involved. Step 1, back, everything, up, twice. Step 2, do not contact him again. Don't warn him, don't confront him. Step 3, we find a family law attorney in Denver, not for you, for her. You give the attorney your receipts. Let them be the ones to put this on the table in a way that actually matters. I sat down on the edge of my couch. Is that legal? I asked, can I do that? You're sharing your own communications, she said. You're not hacking his accounts. You're not tapping his phone. These are your messages. You're allowed to bring your own receipts to a professional. I thought of Megan, smiling in those photos, standing in front of their house, hugging him at Red Rocks. What if she stays with him? I whispered. What if she decides I'm the problem? Rachel's voice softened. Then that's on her, she said. You can't control what she does. Your job, if you choose to take it, is to make sure she actually knows what she's staying with. My brain spun out a dozen imaginary scenarios. Megan screaming at him denying everything, Megan blaming me, calling me names, saying I ruined her marriage. Megan ignoring it entirely and posting date night with my love next week like nothing happened. All of them hurt. But the one that hurt worst was the one where she found out years later and asked, did anyone know? Could someone have told me? And I'd have to say, yeah, I knew. I just didn't want to deal with it. Okay, I said slowly. Okay, I'll do it. Good, Rachel said. Now go drink some water and eat something. Evidence gathering is easier when you're not about to pass out. I laughed despite the lump in my throat. After we hung up, I stared at my phone for a long second. My thumb hovered over Ryan's name in my messages. There was a part of me that still wanted to send him something, a warning shot. A hey, I know. But the bigger part of me, the one that had just been handed a rough blueprint for revenge with teeth, knew that anything I said to him now could give him time. Time to delete. Time to spin. Time to cover his tracks. So instead of texting him, I did exactly what Rachel has said. I opened my laptop. And I went to war in the most millennial way possible. By creating folders. If you've never exported an entire iMessage thread, let me tell you, it is humbling. Watching months of your own heart spill out in blue bubbles on a white background, next to gray lies? That's a special kind of self-inflicted torture. I used an app one of my coworkers recommended once for backing up receipts from nightmare clients. I'd plugged in my phone, followed the steps, and before long I had a PDF on my desktop called Ryan_thread.pdf. I clicked it open. There it was. The whole story. From inconceivable to LO yes babe why. Hundreds of pages of text. I scrolled through them like I was watching a movie I already knew the ending to. Early messages full of cautious jokes turned into flirty banter, then late-night confessions. Sprinkled in among them like landmines were the lies. Ryan, I haven't dated anyone seriously in years. Last thing I had ended badly and I've been cautious since. Ryan, it's just me and Moose in this place. Honestly gets lonely sometimes. Ryan, my roommate is the worst at doing dishes I swear. Ryan, I wish I'd met you before all my ex drama. We'd be living together by now. Lol. I screenshotted those individually and saved them in a separate folder labeled Key Lies. Because if I've learned anything as a designer is this. Clients and judges don't want to dig. They want the highlights. I then saved the full PDF to an external hard drive, created a password-protected folder in my Google Drive, and uploaded a copy there, made a backup on a cheap USB drive. I got it from a conference swag bag because it felt fitting that free marketing junk was now a vessel of truth. Next, I opened WhatsApp. We'd briefly switched to it for a week when he claimed his iPhone was bugging out. Exported that chat too. Saved screenshots of his contact information, full name, phone number. Then I made a new document called Timeline. I wrote out dates. February 18th, 2023, matched on app. February 20th, 2023, first FaceTime call. February 28th, 2023, first fake date night, DoorDash. March 14th, 2023, he states haven't dated anyone seriously in years. March 25th, 2023, cancels first in-person meet, cites work emergency. The 11th of April 2023, FaceTime where family photo collage visible. April 15th, 2023, discover Megan's Facebook page. Under that, I pasted links to Megan's anniversary post, their Valentine's Day post, the 5 years in the house post. I highlighted the dates that overlapped with our texts. When I finished, I sat back and looked at my screen. It was all there, neat, organized. My humiliation turned into evidence. My heartbreak turned into a story that could be told to someone with the power to do something about it. Which meant the next step was clear. I needed an attorney. Not for me, for her. Googling Denver family law attorney cheating husband at 1 a.m. while eating dry Cheerios out of a mug is not how I picture spending my 30s, but there I was. I scrolled past the firms with cheesy billboards out on I-25, past the ones that screamed aggressive representation, and had pictures of men in shiny suits with clenched jaws. I wanted a smaller firm, someone who knew digital evidence. Someone who didn't look like they'd immediately leak everything to Facebook for clout. I found a site for Harris and Feldman Family Law, Denver, CO. Their homepage had normal photos. No scales of justice stock art. There was a section that said, we understand that in the digital age, infidelity and deception often leave a trail. Texts, emails, DMs, social media. We know how to gather and present this evidence effectively. Bingo. They also offered a free 30-minute consultation. Under, how can we help? On the contact form I typed, I am not seeking a divorce myself. I believe I have significant evidence that a man in Aurora, CO, has been carrying on a months-long romantic relationship with me while married, lying to both of us. I would like to know the best, safest way to get this evidence into his wife's hands via counsel, so it can be used if she chooses. I hesitated over the send button. Part of me whispered, this is overkill, just move on, block him. Let her figure it out. Another part, the one that remembered her caption, he's my one and only, and my own captionless Friday nights whispered back, you could walk away. You could also give her a chance you wish someone had given you. I hit send. Then I closed my laptop, turned off my phone, crawled into bed, and stared at the ceiling until the sun started to turn my blinds gray. The next morning, there was an email in my inbox. Hi Lauren, thank you for reaching out. We'd be happy to speak with you about this situation. If you're available, we can schedule a brief in-person consult this week to review your evidence and discuss options. Michael Harris. I looked at the timestamp. Sent at 7:13 a.m. Apparently my revenge was going to be powered by a man who woke up early enough to send emails before I'd even made coffee. That felt like a good sign. 2 days later, I found myself in an office downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a slice of Denver that somehow managed to look both impressive and under construction at the same time. The waiting room had boring art, a Keurig, and a stack of magazines no one was reading. My stomach was in knots. When the receptionist finally said, Lauren? You can go back now, I stood up too fast and almost dropped my bag. Michael Harris looked normal. He was in his early 50s maybe. Salt and pepper hair, glasses, suit that fit well but wasn't trying too hard. He shook my hand, gestured toward a chair, and said, So, I hear you've had a run-in with a digital Casanova. I laughed, a little manic. Something like that. Okay, he said. Let's walk through it. Start from the top, and then we'll look at what you've brought. It felt weird telling the story again. It sounded more ridiculous out loud. Met on app. Texted every day, FaceTime constantly, never met in person. Found wife on Facebook. He didn't judge. Didn't smirk. Just nodded, asked clarifying questions like, how long between first contact and you discovering he was married? Did he ever explicitly say the words, I am not married, or, I am single? Did he ever ask you to send him anything compromising like explicit photos? When I said no to the last one, he actually looked relieved. That simplifies things, he said. Then he turned his monitor toward me. Let's look at what you have. I plugged in my USB drive, navigated to the PDF, and opened it. Seeing it on someone else's screen, my blue and gray bubbles blown up, the little timestamps, the emojis made my cheeks burn. He scrolled slowly, silently. Every so often, he'd stop and read a section, lips moving slightly, then nod to himself and drop a digital sticky note on the side. When he reached the, Are you single? Lol, yes babe, why? Exchange, he made a little sound. That's big, he said simply. We opened the Key Lies folder. He read, I haven't dated anyone seriously in years. It's just me and Moose in this place. My roommate is the worst at doing dishes. Then we pulled up Megan's Facebook posts. Anniversary. House. Valentine's Day. He looked back and forth between the Facebook tabs and the messages. All right, he said finally, sitting back. Here's what we've got. He counted on his fingers. 1. Clear repeated written statements from him that he is single and living alone, which are false. 2. Overlapping timelines of romantic communication with you and life events with his wife. 3. Evidence he emotionally invested in another relationship while presenting himself as single. He paused. Just so we're clear, he said. You truly had no idea he was married until you found his wife's page? None, I said. If he told me, I would have run in the opposite direction. He nodded. Good, he said. That matters. You are not a co-conspirator here. You're a victim of deception as well. He folded his hands. So, you asked the best way to get this information to his wife in a way that she can actually use without putting yourself in unnecessary danger or drama. Right, I said. I don't want him knowing where I live. Or showing up or calling me. Completely fair, he said. Here's what I propose. I draft a letter to Mrs. Keller. It will be very neutral. Something like, information has come to our attention regarding your marriage that may impact your legal rights. We invite you to schedule a free consultation if you wish to discuss. No explicit allegations in writing yet, because if he opens the mail first, we don't want to tip him off. If she calls us, we verify her identity, have her come in, and then, with your permission, we show her the evidence. If she chooses to retain us and file for divorce or legal separation, we incorporate your logs into our evidentiary package. If she chooses not to, we've done what we can. I chewed on my lip. What if she doesn't call? I asked. Or what if she decides to stay and he finds out it was me and comes after me somehow? If she doesn't call, then you've made a good faith effort to give her access to the truth, he said. That's more than most people do. As for him coming after you, you've blocked him, correct? Yes, I said. After I texted that last question and got the yes babe, I stopped responding. Then I blocked him the next day when he sent, "You okay?" A few times. Good, he said. If he manages to contact you again through some other channel and becomes threatening, you let me know and you call the police. But given the type of person we're dealing with, I suspect he'll be more focused on damage control at home. He gave me a small wry smile. Men like this are very brave when they're lying in DMs, he said. Less so when bills and judges are involved. Something in me unclenched at that, because he'd built this whole little fantasy with me. But my fantasy now was him having to explain it in a very real room with fluorescent lighting. Okay, I said. Do it. Just one more thing, he said. Are you prepared for the possibility that this gets ugly? That he might try to minimize, say, it was just texting. I thought about the dozens of times he'd called me baby and babe. The way he described his dream life and placed me in it. The hours I spent being his emotional support while he vented about work like I was some kind of free therapist. If someone did that to me while I was married to him, I said quietly, I'd want to know. Ugly or not? He nodded. Then let's make sure she does, he said. When I left his office, the air felt colder. Not because the temperature had dropped. Because some part of me knew, whatever happened next, we'd flipped a switch. Ryan's little secret was officially on a path he couldn't charm his way out of forever. The next few weeks were weird. You'd think once you activate revenge, there'd be some instant rush. Instead, I went back to my life. I worked, designed logos, joined Zoom calls, answered emails with phrases like circle back and per my last email. I walked around Wash Park, counted dogs, let my mind wander in circles. I went to trivia with Erin, so, "'Lao your guy think it'll work?" She asked, biting into a nacho. He sent her a letter, I said. Old school. Snail mail. Vintage, she said, nodding approvingly. Nothing says your life is about to change like a paper envelope. I laughed, then sobered. What if she doesn't call? I said. What if she sees the return address and throws it away? Erin shrugged. Then you tried, she said. You pushed the boulder to the top of the hill. Whether it rolls down is on gravity and her choices. I poked at my queso. I feel like a villain either way, I admitted. If I do nothing, I'm complicit. If I do something, the stranger who blew up her marriage. She's the wife of a guy who blew up her marriage, Erin corrected. You're the one who mailed her the fire extinguisher. I snorted queso out my nose. It was gross. It also helped. At night, sometimes I lay awake, staring at the little blinking light on my router, and imagined variations. Megan getting the letter, heart pounding, calling the number with shaking hands. Megan showing it to Ryan, him lying, her believing him, Megan ignoring it completely, and my PDF sitting in some digital folder, unread, forever. Every time my phone buzzed with a Denver or Aurora area code I didn't recognize, my heart leapt into my throat. Most of the time, it was a spam call about my car's warranty. Ryan did text me twice more before I blocked him. Ryan, hey beautiful, you okay? Haven't heard from you in a few days. Ryan, did I say something wrong? Ryan, babe? I'm freaking out here, the babe? With 2 question marks almost broke my resolve. For a second, the version of me from weeks ago reached for the phone, wanted to reassure him, wanted to fix whatever imaginary problem he thought there was. Then the version of me who'd seen Megan's anniversary photos took over. I blocked his number. Silence. Then, one Friday afternoon in mid-May, as I was tweaking a banner ad for a client who insisted their font be more punchy, my phone buzzed with an email notification. From Michael Harris, subject, Keller update. My hands shook a little as I clicked it. Hi Lauren, just wanted to let you know that Mrs. Keller did come in to see us after receiving our letter. We reviewed the information you provided with her. She has retained our firm to represent her in a divorce action. She also asked me to pass along a brief message of thanks if you're open to hearing it. If so, please give me a call when you have a moment. That's Michael. I stared at the screen. She called. She came in. She believed. I grabbed my phone and walked out onto my tiny balcony, the one that overlooked the alley where the dumpster always smelled vaguely like old onions. I called him. He answered on the second ring. Hi Lauren, he said. I assume you saw my email. Yeah, I said, leaning my elbow on the railing. She came in? She did, he said. Obviously, I can't tell you everything we discussed. That's privileged. But I can tell you she was devastated. Shocked, but not as shocked as you might think. There were little things she'd been brushing off for a long time. My chest tightened. Yeah, I whispered. Been there. She confirmed a pattern, he continued. You're not the first woman he's done this with. Just the first one who brought proof to someone who could use it. It was like being punched in the gut and vindicated at the same time. Not the first. Of course I wasn't. God, I said, I hate that for her. And for all of us. She asked me to pass along a message, he said. Up to you if you want to hear it. Yeah, I said. I do. I heard paper rustle. He read, Please tell Lauren I'm so sorry he did this to her too. Thank you for being braver than I was able to be for a long time. My throat closed up. I pressed my fingers into my eyes. Wow, I managed. She may ask for a sworn statement from you at some point, he said gently. But toward the legal side, your work here is mostly done. I'll keep you posted if there's anything you need to do. Okay, I said. I hung up and just stood there, looking at the brick wall across from me, listening to a car alarm somewhere in the distance. The weight I'd been carrying, that mix of guilt and responsibility, shifted. It didn't vanish, nothing ever does. But it settled into something that felt more like peace. I hadn't just been some idiot on an app getting strung along for fun. I'd been part of a story that now had a chance to end differently for someone else. And for the first time since this started, I let myself cry, ugly, hiccuping, snotty tears, for me, for her. For all the versions of us who'd believed guys like Ryan when they said, You're my only one. When I was done, my eyes were puffy and my nose was red, but my chest felt lighter. The next few months would be a slow burn. But the fuse was lit, and eventually it was going to reach the courthouse. And I was going to be there to see how he handled the smoke. From evidence to the courthouse. Divorce law moves like molasses. If you've never been near it, you might think it's all dramatic, you're served, scenes and quick resolutions. In reality, it's paperwork, deadlines, financial disclosures, mediation, court dates scheduled months out. For a while, my involvement was mostly none. Life resumed. I still had to pay rent, still had to design banners for brands that thought make it pop was helpful feedback. Still had to show up to my niece's birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese in Lakewood and pretend the animatronic mouse wasn't plotting my death. But the whole situation with Ryan changed how I moved through my days in little ways. I was jumpier when my phone rang from an unknown number. I Googled every guy who matched with me on any app, names, profile pics, everything. If anything didn't line up, I unmatched. I talked about it in therapy. Jessica, my therapist, sat back in her office chair on my laptop screen one Tuesday afternoon and said, "So, you did something pretty bold." "I committed evidence," I said. "Like a crime, but backwards." She smiled. "How do you feel about it now?" She asked. I thought, proud, I said, surprising myself a little. Scared? A little gross? Like I shouldn't know these intimate details of their marriage and money and whatever is coming. Why gross? She asked. Because I'm in the middle of something that's technically not my relationship, I said. Like I inserted myself between them, even though he already did that by bringing me in the first place. And what would you say if Megan was sitting here? She asked. If she said, I had a feeling something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it? I pictured Megan's smile in those photos. The way she'd written my one and only. I say I'm glad someone showed me, I said. So why is it okay for hypothetical you but not you? Jessica asked. I rolled my eyes. Because my brain hates consistency? She laughed. There's a term we use in therapy, she said. Moral injury. It's what happens when you feel like your actions violate your own sense of right and wrong, even if logically you know you did the best you could. That sounds about right, I said. I know I didn't make vows to him. I know I didn't lie. But I still feel involved, and I hate that. The truth is, she said, you were involved the moment he dragged you into his deception. When he called you baby and babe and told you were special, he made you part of a story you didn't consent to. You didn't choose that. What you did choose was to tell the truth about it. That's not a moral injury. That's a repair attempt. I sat with that. A repair attempt, not revenge, not destruction, repair, just. Not for him. For her, for me. For every woman who has to sit in a therapist's office and say, I knew something was wrong and I did nothing. By the end of that session, I'd made a quiet promise to myself. If I ever saw him again, if the universe ever put us in the same physical space, that's how I wanted to feel. Not vengeful, just solid. Like I'd chosen myself and the truth, in a situation where he'd chosen ego and lies. In early January 2024, Michael emailed me again. Subject: Keller v. Keller, upcoming hearing. The email read, Hi Lauren, there is a hearing scheduled in February at Denver County Courthouse regarding certain financial matters in the Keller case. While you are not required to attend, the chat logs you provided will be part of the evidentiary packet. As this is a public proceeding, you are legally allowed to observe if you choose. If you do not wish to attend, that's perfectly fine. Your prior cooperation has been more than sufficient. Best, Michael. I stared at the date, the 9th of February 2024. Fridays were my flex days at work. I usually didn't have many meetings, could shuffle my hours. My first instinct, absolutely not. Why would I go watch their divorce hearing like it was a TV show? My second instinct, absolutely yes. I wanted to see his face when reality didn't match the fantasy he'd written in my DMs. I didn't reply right away. I thought about it while I did dishes, while I walked around Wash Park in my giant puffy coat. While I sat in traffic on I-25 behind someone who thought 40 miles per hour was acceptable in the left lane. A week before the hearing, I called Michael. Is there any reason I shouldn't go? I asked. Legally, no, he said. Emotionally. That's up to you. What do you think will happen? I asked. He hummed. It's a status hearing, he said. The judge will ask about financial disclosures, maybe touch on any misconduct that might affect credibility in negotiations. Your logs help establish a pattern of deception, which can influence how the judge views his statements under oath. It won't be a fireworks show, but it might be clarifying. I could do clarifying. Okay, I said. I think I want to be there, even if I just sit in the back. Then do, he said. And remember, you don't owe him anything, not a reaction. Not eye contact. Nothing. I tucked that sentence into my pocket like a talisman. February 9th, 2024, dawn cold and gray. The kind of Denver day where the sky looks like someone took a dirty white sheet and stretched it over the city. I checked the weather app 3 times, even though it wasn't supposed to snow until later. On autopilot, I made coffee, fed my neighbor's cat. They were out of town and I'd offered. Put on jeans, boots, a sweater, and my warmest coat, pulled my hair back into a low ponytail. I stared at myself in the mirror. I did not look like the girl who cried over a cheating guy's text bubbles. I looked like someone who might actually leave her house to do something consequential. I grabbed my keys, my bag, and almost as an afterthought, the cheap USB drive with the PDF on it. I didn't need it. Michael had copies, but it felt symbolic. Like a physical connection between the girl who sat on her couch months ago, exporting messages, and the woman who was about to walk into a courthouse where those messages had weight. I parked in a garage 2 blocks away from the Denver County Courthouse because downtown parking is a nightmare. The air bit at my face as I walked, boots crunching over old dirty snow piled at the edges of the sidewalk. The courthouse loomed up a headstone, columns, steps, the whole "this is serious business" vibe. My stomach flipped. I didn't go in, at least, not at first. I stood across the street, near a bus stop, pretending to scroll my phone. People bustled around me, lawyers in suits, people in puffy coats clutching manila envelopes, a guy arguing loudly on his phone about child support. My heart hammered. Any second now, they'd come out. I didn't know if I wanted to see his face up close. I also didn't know if I could leave without at least trying. When the lights hit the courthouse steps, I didn't see him go in. 1 minute the courthouse doors were just doors. The next, they were opening again, and a cluster of people spilled out. I recognized her first, Megan, not from the white dress or the post-holiday photos, but from a candid shot she'd posted once in scrubs, hair pulled back, stethoscope around her neck, with the caption "Night Shift Face." She looked tired, not in the "I work nights and my coffee hasn't kicked in" way. In the way people who've had the floor drop out from under them look. She was wearing a long navy coat, dark jeans, boots. Her hair was in a low bun. She clutched a folder in one hand and her purse strap in the other like they were lifelines. Beside her walked Michael, in his suit, expression neutral but posture protective. A few feet away, coming out of a different set of doors, was Ryan. He looked smaller than he did on my phone. Part of that was physical. The camera had always been slightly angled up, giving him that subtle taller than you thing guys pretend they don't know they're doing. But this version of him? Shoulders hunched, tie askew, hair flatter, skin sallow under the gray sky. He was talking fast to a stockier man in a suit, his attorney, presumably gesturing with his hands in exactly the way he did on FaceTime when he was ranting about a bug in his code. They converged near the top of the steps, maybe 10 feet from each other. Even from across the street, I could feel the tension crackling between them. The lawyers spoke first, their voices low, tight. I couldn't catch every word over the rush of traffic, but a few phrases drifted over. Financial disclosures incomplete. Judge isn't going to like. We've already produced. Ryan's voice cut through, louder. So what? I'm just supposed to agree to whatever she wants, he snapped. This is insane. Megan's jaw clenched. For someone who spent a year lying to my face, you have a lot of opinions about what's fair, she said. Her voice was controlled, but I could hear the strain. It was just texting, he shot back. You're really going to blow up our whole life over some stupid DMs and a girl who clearly has issues? I felt my face go hot, even from across the street. Michael's voice sharpened. Mr. Keller, he said, I strongly advise you to stop minimizing. The court has seen extensive logs. This was not just texting. This was a sustained pattern of deception. Ryan spun toward him. Oh, please, he said. Are we really going to pretend Lauren wasn't into it? She knew what she was doing. She came after me. There it was. The narrative I knew he'd cling to. I watched Megan's face when he said my name. For a split second, something flickered, pain, anger. Maybe a flash of curiosity about the stranger who'd inadvertently become a character in their marriage story. Then her expression hardened. She didn't stand in front of our friends and family and promise to be faithful to me, she said quietly. You did. She owed me nothing. You owed me everything. It was like watching someone drive a nail into a board in slow motion. Precise. Final. His attorney touched his arm. "Ryan," he said under his breath. "Not here, not like this." Ryan jerked his arm away. "No, because now I'm the bad guy, right?" he nearly shouted. "I work, I pay the bills, and just because I wanted to feel something after you checked out." "For the record," Michael cut in, "your bank statements show she's paid a significant portion of the mortgage on the Aurora house. And your emotional justification doesn't change the fact that you lied, repeatedly, including to this court." People were starting to stare. A woman leaving the courthouse with a stack of papers slowed her walk. A guy in a Broncos hoodie lit a cigarette and watched from the sidewalk. A security guard shifted his weight closer to the doors. On my side of the street, I stood frozen, coffee cup forgotten in my hand. He still hadn't seen me. To him, I was probably just a collection of messages on a PDF, words stripped of the face on the other end. Some petty part of me wanted him to know I existed beyond the texts. Not to gloat, just to be real for once in this whole thing. A walk sign lit up at the crosswalk. On impulse, I stepped off the curb. My heart hammered in my ears. As I crossed, their voices got clearer. "No judge is going to screw me over because I made a few mistakes," Ryan was saying. "You're acting like I murdered someone." Megan's laugh was short, humorless. "You murdered my trust," she said. "You murdered the version of you I defended to everyone for years." "That counts for something." Michael put a hand on her elbow. "Let's go, Megan," he said. "We're not accomplishing anything here." They started down the steps toward the sidewalk. Ryan and his attorney followed a few paces behind, still arguing. I reached the other side of the street, just as I stepped onto the sidewalk. We were, for a brief, surreal moment, within arm's reach. I kept my sunglasses on. I kept walking. But I let myself glance up. For a split second, his gaze slid past me. Then his eyes flicked back. Recognition is a strange thing when it happens out of context. I watched it in real time. First, the vague sense of familiarity. Then, the squint, like he was adjusting some internal focus. Then, the widening eyes as his brain cross-referenced woman on phone screen with woman on sidewalk in front of courthouse while my wife and lawyers are here. His steps faltered. His mouth opened slightly. He said my name, very softly. "Lauren?" I didn't stop. Didn't break stride. Didn't give him a smile or a scowl or a tear. I just held his gaze over the rim of my coffee cup for half a second, let the reality of my physical existence land, then looked forward and kept moving. Behind me, I heard his attorney say, low and urgent, "Leave it, Ryan." I heard Megan ask, "Who is that?" And I heard Michael answer, "Someone who deserved better." I turned the corner. My hands were shaking. But for the first time in months, they weren't shaking from anxiety or shame. They were shaking from adrenaline and relief. It was done. I had faced the man who lied to me and his wife in the same 20-foot radius and hadn't crumbled. I'd been the one with the truth in my pocket. He'd been the one flailing. I made it back to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and just breathed for a few minutes. Traffic honked. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. The city went on. And somewhere behind me in that courthouse, a judge would eventually read my words, not in a chat bubble, but in a packet labeled Exhibit C. I didn't go to any more hearings. I didn't need to. Over the next few months, Michael sent occasional polite updates when it was relevant. In March, he emailed, "Mediation scheduled." In May, "Agreement in progress." Your logs were referenced regarding credibility. In June 2024, "Divorce finalized. No further action needed on your part." He never gossiped, never overshared. In one last email he wrote, "For your peace of mind, Mrs. Keller retained the house in Aurora, as well as a favorable share of marital assets. Your contributions to the evidentiary record helped the court understand the full context of Mr. Keller's behavior. She asked me to tell you she and Moose are doing well." I read that last line 3 times. She and Moose. Somehow, knowing the dog was with her made my petty little heart happy. I pictured Ryan in some bland apartment closer to his office. Walls bare, no family collage, no dog, just a guy alone with his choices, and whatever version of himself he could tolerate now. Was it enough? Did it match the hurt, the humiliation, the gut punch of that Saturday morning at my kitchen table? Nothing ever does, but it was something. It was more than most women get when they find out their Ryan has been living 10 different lives online, and that was enough for me. What I learned in Denver CO, life now is quieter. I'm still in the same one-bedroom near Wash Park, though my landlord raised my rent because the universe likes to keep things spicy. I still do my little loop in the mornings sometimes, watching the dog walkers and the joggers and the endless stream of people with hydro flasks. I still work remotely for that mid-sized agency in Chicago, still get the same annoying let's make it pop emails. But I'm different. Not in the I'll never trust again men are trash love is dead way. In the I listen to myself sooner way. When I match with someone on an app now and they dodge meeting in person more than once, I don't twist myself into knots making excuses for them. I unmatch. When someone's story doesn't line up work, living situation, weirdly vague about everything, I don't gaslight myself into thinking I'm paranoid. I Google. I reverse image search. I trust that tug in my gut that says, something is off. I also talk about it more, on late nights in group chats. Over mimosas at brunch. In DMs with women I barely know when they say, hey, do you think it's weird that? Because if there's one thing guys like Ryan count on, it's silence. They count on you being too embarrassed to admit you didn't catch it sooner. They count on their wives being too scared of blowing up their lives to ask questions. They count on you scrolling back through your own text thinking, was I stupid? Was I needy? Was this my fault? Here's what I know now, I was lonely. I was hopeful, I wanted connection. That's not stupidity. That's human. He took that very normal human thing and used it to feed his ego while lying to another very normal human he'd promised to love. That's on him. I don't wear what he did like a scarlet letter anymore. I wear what I did in response like armor. Because when I had a choice to do nothing, to scream into the void on my own, or to quietly hand my receipts to someone who could use them, I chose the one that actually changed something. I used the system. I turned my screenshots into legal ammunition. I became, unintentionally, the other woman without consent. And then the witness. And if some guy is listening to this right now, thinking about making a profile that says single while his wife is at work, here's my message to him. There might be a Lauren on the other end of that chat. And she might be a lot more organized, angry, and willing to hand over a USB drive than you think. If you stuck with me all the way through this very Denver, very 2020s Catfish saga, thank you. Don't forget to like the video if you think people who lie about being single should have to explain themselves to a judge instead of just ghosting and moving on. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more real-life pro-revenge stories from all over the US neighbors, landlords, exes, all of it. And tell me in the comments. Have you ever caught someone lying about their relationship status online? What did you do, block and run? Or did you go full receipts mode like I did? Because after what happened in Denver, Colorado, I can tell you this much. Sometimes the quiet girl with the screenshots and a free consult with a family law attorney is the scariest thing a catfish will ever meet.